Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the build up of the new 5-star stories 1/100 IMS plastic kit of the Engage SR1 mortar head. That was quite a mouthful. I build models in the order of the manual, so I'm starting with the head. First, let me show you some of the main tools that I use for building. Plastic nippers, standard hobby knife, sanding sticks from the nail aisle of any department store, Tamiya's basic metal file set, and probably not last, but some sanding sponges and sandpapers. Let's get started. I like to use Mr. Hobby brand cement. I also use a ceramic knife for scraping mold lines. The head's pretty small on this model compared to some of the others I've built, so there are only a few parts. And we're off to the next step, the body or fuselage as translated. This model has a lot of exclamation points, but they're all in Japanese. I don't read Japanese, so I use Google Lens on my phone to translate. Just point the camera at the text and it does a good enough job to be able to figure it out at least. In this case, make a moving part, which means don't use glue here. Over here, be careful not to cut the center area off. This is all one piece. That's just 2 examples, but I'll use the app for the rest as well so I don't make mistakes. Let's keep going. The body parts are pretty familiar in feel to the other mortar head designs, with the ridges around all the sides. This is a thicker, slower drying cement, but I'm about to make a mistake here. Read the text and you'll see. As you can see, I realized that with the center part in place, the sides won't go in. Luckily, I used a slow drying cement, so we can pull that part out and start over. So these side parts need to go on first before you glue the subassembly into place. The reason is these side pieces have a little edge that slides under the front and creates a natural panel line. For many of the parts, you'll need to pay attention to the direction, and it's always called out in the manual. Cool. This part has a little note about how to slide it into place. So I bought a new camera mount that lets me show the work from above. I think it's an improvement. Next is the hip area. If you watched my OJ video, you'll remember that it had two options for fixed or movable legs. I chose fixed on that kit because it's so top heavy. This kit has a similar option, but for this one, it's way lighter. So I'm going to use the movable legs since I don't think it'll be an issue. These little ball joints need to face out at an angle, so I use this tool to twist them around. front armor has little notches that lock them in place when it's in a straight pose. For the side armor, there are tabs that hold them in a straight position when it's not in an action pose. Next up are the legs. Again, there are a lot of exclamation points to translate. Mostly it's about the direction of parts and also mentioning the parts to substitute for the fixed pose version. For example, this polycap P17 and 16 would be left out for the fixed pose version, which would slide into its place and be cemented. A reminder to always pay attention to parts that need to be installed in a specific direction. I use ordinary clothespins to hold cemented parts together. Here's one of the few seams I'm going to have to fill in. I sanded a little too much so the gap is larger than it should be, but it shouldn't really be a problem. This page has a little more exclamation points. Let's see what they say. The top part says to assemble these two shapes, and the bottom part mentions to not cement the centerpiece. This is mostly just comparing the fixed pose and movable parts. For the knee parts, there are two pieces that look like nubs, but they're not, so be sure you don't cut them off accidentally, like I almost did. These cables attach with the rectangle shape on the top area. For the sides of the legs, you have the option for open or closed panels, but you have to choose one, they're not movable. For the open position, it props up with this little piece. For the closed position, you cut these little tabs off, and it says to close it like a lid. But I did notice that it'll go into the closed position without cutting the tabs. The feet are angled inwards, so pay attention to the direction of these parts. These purple parts will need some masking because there are some body color bits on it. The hip joints are really hard to get in. I didn't want to break anything, so I ended up taking most of the armor parts off so I'd have more space to work with. The manual actually mentions doing this as well. In the end, I figured out that it's easier to just kind of wiggle the parts into the hips instead of trying to force them in straight. And now it can stand. Next up is the arms, and the exclamation points continue. This time it's more about the direction of the parts, keeping track of right and left sides, making things movable, and noting parts that you shouldn't cut. There are also options for fixed posing on the shoulders. I recommend using an app to translate as much as you need to, but if you can't, it's fairly easy to figure out. These shoulder parts have some seams, so I'm using black cement SP to help make sure I've got everything joined properly, since you can visually see where the cement is flowing. I didn't show in the video, but the elbows on this model have unusual ball joints that you pull out to pose. It makes the standing pose look a little more streamlined. The last steps are the veil and the spide, known to us Earthling as a shield and sword. The veil is supposed to be maybe 5 colors, but it's molded all in one piece. So there's going to be a lot of masking here. The molding looks pretty good though, so it shouldn't be too difficult. The veil sticks into this hole. It's not a really tight fit, but it stays in place nicely. Another sharp point, the tip of the sword can draw blood if you're not careful. The sword holding hand has a removable thumb so that you can get the sword in and out if you want to, so don't glue the thumb. The translation also recommends pinning or using double-sided tape to keep it removable. I found that it stays in place pretty well without it though. And here's the Engage SR1 all built up and ready for the next step, which is the painting. This kit was a joy to build, and you can really tell that Volks is improving this line of kits with each new release. I'm looking forward to completing it. As always, thanks for watching.